Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Podcast, sponsored by Helping Hands Remodeling right here in Manhattan. If you need something done on your bathroom, deck, any other home repairs for Airbnbs, whatever, call Gabriel or hit him up on at mhkremodeler.com. Great stuff here. Hi, boys. Let me get this back. I can't get to you. There we are.
What's up, boss?
Nothing, man. Been having a lazy day. Lazy
was
day.
Not lazy. Was last night. Cole missed out on a little date I had with Fitz at Old Chicago. We had Guinness. We got to properly prepare for the trip, right?
Yep. I had my first Guinness, and I don't know how many years, and now I remember why I don't like Guinness. So
I've heard they taste different in Ireland
what we're doing
here. So maybe you can hold out some hope that you'll actually be refreshed.
Our friend Ryan Lackey said he doesn't like Guinness and loved it in Dublin. Now, here's the problem. I don't like coffee. There's a lot of coffeeness in there. And as you know, Gilbert's a connoisseur. He kind of swished it around and sniffed it and goes, coffee and chocolate. That's what he said about Guinness. And I like chocolate, as you probably can tell, but I don't like coffee. I prefer to mainline my caffeine.
And I know, as we're on the topic of Ireland, I recently was around a lot of Iowa State fans. I was down at the lake, and there was a bunch of people from Iowa who were there. And I can honestly say we make jokes about Busch Light with K-State and Iowa State fans, but it is no joke.
No, it's
not.
not.
It's the only beer that people who are Iowa State and K-State fans drink. 90% of the time, they're drinking Busch Light, and it goes down like water, Fitz. So there's going to be an adjustment period there for a lot of people who are making the trip over to Dublin. It's
absolutely my favorite American crappy light beer. By far. Have you heard the story about why we have Busch to go along with Budweiser? Because when Augie Busch wanted to name his stadium Budweiser, the MLB said, no, you can't do that. So he named it after his family and then ordered his brewery to make a Busch beer. I love that story. Giving it to the man. That's
a nice little workaround.
So you want to get going now with our questions from Wabash Station? I think I'll pop them up here and we'll do some reading. Here we go. First one up is from Mac 90. What player will have a breakout performance at the Iowa State game? This is one of those situations where me not reading the questions in advance makes it difficult. Anyone got an answer here?
Gilbert, you put the question first, so you get to go first.
I got a head start. I got an upper hand on you guys as I picked out the questions. I mean, it depends maybe what your definition of a breakout player is. What's your expectations versus mine, that sort of thing. But Jackson's going to get carries, and how many carries, we'll see if he's just going out there and balling and reminding you of DJ Giddens or Deuce Vaughn or somebody like that. So that could take you by surprise. I hate to do this to you, Cole, another offensive player, guy by the name of Lincoln Cure. I mean, I think everybody knows who he is, but once you see him on the field in Dublin in a purple jersey, you're going to have that moment where you're like, all right, this dude's a K-State Wildcat for the next number of years. He might make a highlight play or two, and I don't want to say take over a game. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, but he could be a breakout player as well.
It's funny you say Lincoln Cure, because in Chris Kleiman's press conference, there was a question about Lincoln Cure. And, normally whenever he talks about the freshmen at this point in the year, he just kind of says, oh, we've got a great freshman class, and they're kind of swimming a little bit. But he made sure to actually bring up Lincoln Cure and talk about him and how he is physically ready to play. That to me is interesting. And we might have to do a little bit more digging on Chris Kleiman before they leave to Ireland at the end of fall camp, before they prepare, because I'm very interested to see the progress he makes. As it relates to this question, I'm going to say John Pastore. And I'm going to say John Pastore because there obviously is a need there with the whole George Fitzpatrick situation. It doesn't sound like he's going to be able to play in that game. And they're going to need somebody to step up. And again, John Pastore, a guy who Chris Kleiman has talked about at length this summer. When he's healthy, Chris Kleiman said last year if he'd have been healthy, he'd have played 50 snaps a game. So I'm really interested to see what he can do. And you need to have a left tackle, and it sounds like he's going to be the guy. So I'll say John Pastore on that offensive line.
That was a good answer.
Thank you.
It's easy to pick the obvious ones. I'm tempted to pick Tibbs at receiver. I'm going to go completely out of anyone's guess that I would pick. I'm going to go with Sterling Lockett. I mean, if we're going to search for a player that's going to break out and actually, make a headline, make some, people go, ooh, that's different. I mean, look, let's be honest. We expect Jackson to be good. We expect Kira to be good. Sterling's just kind of been weighed down a little bit. And I think he's going to be the main punt returner and in the rotation at receiver. I'm calling it right now. Sterling Lockett's going to have a big game against Iowa State. And when I'm wrong, don't anyone remind me.
There's so many good answers, like honorable mention for Devon Rice, who I thought was really interesting when Chris Kleiman talked about him. That's going to be a guy who could make a few splash plays in the return game, maybe get in there and get 2 or 3 carries. I don't know if we call that a breakout performance, but you definitely weren't expecting it. Another honorable mention, I think, on the defensive side, we haven't even talked about anybody, but it's Quay Moss. Chris Kleiman talked about him as well. I'm excited to see those new safeties they rotate in there because, again, we talk about Gunnar Maldonado's health, guys. Like, he hasn't yet to practice full 11 on 11. And so they're going to need some guys to rotate in, not because he's not healthy, but just because he hasn't had the workload. And so there's going to be other safeties who rotate in there. I would expect Quay Moss to get some run as well.
That bowl game.
His actual name?
I believe it is Quatavius.
I like Quay, though. Quay's cool. Mm-hmm. It's like we call Ryan Gilbert Rye.
Rye. You can call me Rye.
We don't.
I will say, to wrap this up, the bowl game from last year, that was a number of players on defense, the cornerbacks. That was kind of their breakout opportunity. Dylan Edwards as well. So a lot of candidates are now more known just because they played in that Rate Bowl. If K-State didn't play in a bowl game or everybody opted out, whatever, then there'd be a lot more breakout candidates for Iowa State. But we've seen a number of guys step up and prove that they can be a part of this 2025 team.
You know who I really want to have a breakout game and to turn a bunch of heads and everyone goes, ooh, that guy was awesome. Cub Patton, because I get to say Cub. Next question from KSU Thrill. Woo. What player besides Avery Johnson would you like to stay healthy all season? Austin Romaine. What else is anyone else saying?
Is this a question off of who does K-State need to stay healthy all season, or who do we want to stay healthy all season? Because
would you like to see stay? I think we left out a word there.
Uh-oh.
Like to see stay all season, stay healthy, like stay. Yeah, who you would like, not necessarily need. Maybe it'll be someone none of us would guess, or it could be Lincoln Cure.
Because K-State needs Jace Brown to stay healthy all season.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean?
That is absolutely my answer.
So then I'll let you talk about that. But he's not necessarily someone who I want to see stay healthy all season long, because I do think they have some receivers there. Receivers more kind of a plug and play position at this point for K-State. Like, we do believe that there's a big difference between the top 3 guys and the rest of the receiving core. But if Avery Johnson is as good as we think he's going to be, then how many times have we seen it? Have we seen a guy like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes make it work with guys who maybe they're not the greatest wideouts? They'll have their top option will go out for a game or two, and then somebody else will step in and they'll surprisingly put up numbers. So receiver can be a position that's like that. Again, I know I've said this before, but what player would I like to see stay healthy all season, guys? I'm going to go along that offensive line, and it's Taylor Potier. Like, I want to see TP healthy for another season, not just because he has had such horrible luck and this is his last go around, but because I think K-State needs him to be healthy because he can be a difference maker. And, he talked about it at media days. Like, he didn't feel himself the last 2 seasons because he was still trying to get adjusted to playing with 2 basically brand new knees. And so this is the best he's felt. So my answer is going to be TP, because I really, for the sake of that kid and this football team, would love to see a healthy season from him.
I love that answer. That's a great answer.
Yeah. Chris Kleiman is not going to bring back Taylor Potier. the roster cut down stuff if he didn't feel confident in his abilities.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Fitz, you mentioned Austin Romaine, though, just in regard of depth and other playmakers at the linebacking position, you're okay if he goes down. You've got other guys that can step up. Whereas Cole mentioned with Jace Brown at the wide receiver position, man, ask me this 5 weeks into the season, and I might say, okay, they're out of the woods. It's going to be all right. Tibbs and Bradley are legit. You don't necessarily need Brown on a game in, game out basis. But as of right now, I do not have enough confidence in the rest of that WR group. So I say Jace Brown. You've got to have, and it'd be one thing if it was just, obviously he had to prove it with Avery Johnson. Let's say Will Howard was the quarterback last year and Jace Brown had a good connection with him. No, this is Avery's right-hand man. They've got such great chemistry, know each other like the back of the hand. So if Jace Brown goes out, you're going to absolutely need those wideouts to step up. And there's no guarantees that you get that. And I was looking at the media guide today, guys, like K-State's over the last 10 years, they're leading receivers year after year. There's some dudes in there that you're like, with all due respect, if that's your number one guy, didn't have the best receiving group.
It's been a while since K-State had a really good receiving group, like really deep and talented. I don't know if this is it, but I think it's a move in the right direction. Now, I think Austin Romaine because, I feel like his backup is better than, some other possible losses, whoever that would be. But I think Austin Romaine is possibly the best linebacker in the Big 12. And there's a drop-off there that is substantial, not just in talent, but also in leadership and helping everyone else get in the right positions to do the right things. I think now, as he moves into his third full season at linebacker, we're going to really see him break through as an on-the-field leader and a true middle linebacker that's getting everyone lined up and directs that defense. And as his confidence has grown, so has the defense. And I think it's going to grow even more.
And
yes,
I was just going to touch on Austin Romaine. Think back to 2022. There was a certain middle linebacker by the name of Deuce Green who was on his third full and healthy season as a middle linebacker, and he helped lead K-State in one of the most spectacular seasons K-State's had, including all the way at the very end on that goal line stand. Deuce Green played a huge part in that season. So I'm with you, Fitz. You got to have the quarterback of the defense, and we've seen linebackers get better and better and better in Joe Klinderman's system as they continue to get older. So I know that we give Steve Stannard a lot of crap sometimes, but you got to give that man his flowers because he knows how to develop linebackers. And Austin Romaine, if Daniel Green is any indication, is in store for a really good season, and they can't afford to lose him.
What would Stannard do if we actually brought him flowers? That'd be an uncomfortable moment. I think he'd take them and then hit you with them.
Yeah, I think they'd immediately go into the trash can.
Okay, I'm not going to do it. Next question.
Real quick, Fitz.
Okay, go ahead.
Couple points. Number one, we do have to be fair with the depth because Chris Kleiman loves to give his players. We're talking about Austin Romaine here. That's a guy that got thrown into the fire because of injuries, right? And struggled at first. Look who he is now. Same thing with Des Purnell. Struggled early. Will Howard. We could go on and on about players that got thrown in there. So one man's misfortune can be another's opportunity. So just because, like I said, Jace Brown, for example, you can't write anybody off, especially at that wideout spot. But guys, one more name here that I wanted to bring up. You lose, Parrish and Siegel and Garber off to the NFL. Maldonado's a newcomer. Who is that one glue guy in the secondary? VJ Payne. If you lose him, just above the neck, the cerebral stuff, he's obviously a quick guy, but the leadership, what he brings from the pro, he's been in the program for a number of years. I understand Maldonado's got a lot under his belt, but if you lose VJ Payne, that secondary has not a whole lot of experience in a purple jersey.
Yeah. Now we'll go to this one. This one's long. Still hate Drew Brees.
Great name.
I was thinking, did K-State play Drew Brees ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was how the 98 disaster ended in the Alamo Bowl, losing to Purdue. Okay. We're like, who's this guy? He's got a funny birthmark, and then he just lit up K-State.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. Is the expectation of playoff or bust acceptable, or are we putting too much faith in the new O-line with an unproven wide receiver room that hasn't met expectations under Kleiman? How many words you take out of that?
It took a lot out of that one.
It kind of looks like something that got edited. No, I think it's good to put those expectations on this team. I don't don't think you should ever really shy away from expectations. And this conference, as was proven last year, is wide open. Anyone could win this. Someone's going to be surprising and up in the mix, and a team or two will be surprisingly not in the mix. And I think it's good to say, okay, it's Avery Johnson's second year. Oster-Romaine is elite, and so are a lot of other guys on that defense, that we have high expectations in a conference that doesn't have a clear front runner. Now, if it was like, Oklahoma in their heyday, talk about winning a Big 12 championship, come on. I mean, you got to go through them, which K-State did in 2003, come to think of it. But I don't think it was an expectation earlier in the season after some of those losses. I just think this team's going to be good, barring a disaster somewhere along the line. And I'm just going to say this. This is a topic for a future daily delivery, hopefully. It's time to quit thriving as the underdog. It's time to be the hunted, to be the team everyone wants. K-State has never really owned that role in football. There was seasons when they were the best, but they shared the conference with maybe bigger names, bigger brands, certainly. That isn't true here. I really think K-State needs to have a mental change here, that we're not going to just, beat teams that expect to beat us. We're going to beat everyone, and the teams we really are better than, we're going to destroy them like days of old. We're not going to show a lot of sympathy in the third quarter. Fourth quarter, maybe. If you're winning games like that, you're making a statement across the conference. It's time K-State takes that mantle and says, that's us. Come get us.
In this day and age of college football, if you are inside of the top 25 at any point during the season, your expectation should be playoff or bust.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the situation, because you're 1 3-game winning streak away from being a top 15 team, and then being a 2-game winning streak away from being in the conversation of being in the top 12, right? So every team in K-State, we fully expect them, whenever the polls come out, to be a top 25 team. Their expectation needs to be playoff or bust. You've heard them talk about they want to win a Big 12 championship and make the college football playoff. That is something that they have said, right? And yeah, I don't think there is too much expectation. And the reality is, if they go 8-4 again, no one in that building is going to be satisfied. No one, because you're not getting better. And at some point, you have to get better, or else you're going to get worse. Because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And that's going to improve. And if there are games where, the line of college football is so razor thin, where they come 2 or 3 plays away and they finish 9-3 and they don't make the Big 12 championship game, it's not going to be, we were 2 or 3 plays away. If you talk to the people inside that building, it's going to be, no, we should have won those games and we should be playing in the Big 12 championship, because very quietly, they are very, very confident.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, inside veneer. That's the expectation. Regardless of what we think, what a fan might think, that is the expectation. That being said, a lot is riding on best case scenario. The question mentions the wideouts in the O-line performing to their highest potential, right? Like, if that all clicks and Avery Johnson doesn't throw 10 picks this year, and the secondary is able to minimize the losses of that NFL departures, right? Like, if everything goes well and all the best case scenario hits, like your parlay, everything just check. Like, sure, you can go out and win the Big 12 and compete in the college football playoffs, win some games in there, but that's all riding on the best case scenarios. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that last season, K-State had 1 win over a team with an overall winning record. So I get it. This team's got a lot of potential, and there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but a thing wrong here and a thing wrong there, and it's very easy to go back to being an 8-4 team. Again, nothing wrong with being an 8-4 team. That's a very, to do that year in and year out, that's impressive. You're a successful team if you do that. But for everybody to just be expecting, 10 wins, Big 12 championship, you'll book your tickets to Arlington. I can't go that far yet. There's too many uncertainties, and every team in the Big 12 has a lot of uncertainties, and you're going to have to stay healthy, get lucky with the injury bug. But I'm lower than most on this K-State beat. I can guarantee you that on K-State season.
The thing is, too, guys, everybody in the Big 12 has those question marks, Gilbert. Like, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. Everybody has those question marks. And I could make the argument that the question marks that K-State has are a lot smaller in size than the question marks that some of these other programs have. Like, when you have a returning starting quarterback who broke the school's record for touchdown passes, that should mean something. And so for the question mark to be at receiver, because I think that's what a lot of people believe.
Well, no, hang on there. Avery's not out of the woods, in my humble opinion, Mr.
Fair.
Harvey.
That's totally fair. I expect some sort of progression from Avery. And if you don't have progression from your quarterback, like I just said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So you expect there to be some progression there. And if the question marks are at receiver, well, then your quarterback should be able to make up for it. It's not like we're sitting here saying, oh, well, they lost, their middle linebacker and they lost all their defensive linemen and they're not going to be able to stop anybody on defense. And they brought it. Like, that's not the case. They are building from the trenches out. And it has seemed to have some success with Chris Klieman in the past at North Dakota State and obviously winning a Big 12 championship in 2022. So I don't disagree with you, but I think the question marks are a lot smaller for K-State than they are for some of the other teams in the conference, which is really what we're talking about.
I'm going to add an asterisk to everything that's been said in this question, as long as Avery Johnson stays healthy and plays. I mean, he played beaten up last year, and that's not going to be an excuse with this team. If he's out and you go to an inexperienced quarterback, then everything's up in the air. We'll see. That would be, I feel bad saying it. Some of you think I just manifested it. Oh man, if he gets hurt, I'm going to get so much crap. America Cat. Yeah. USA. How much does our running game regress without DJ? He achieved the one name status. DJ. We know who he's talking about. DJ Giddens was an awesome running back. I think the Colts are finding out the same thing right now. But I'm not going to say the running game will regress. It's going to change. You're going to be trying to beat people with speed instead of power. DJ was so good, he could make cuts in the hole. Just, he's not even through the line yet. He's making linebackers miss or safeties. And I think this group will be just sheer speed to get past you and then outrun you. They'll get to the edge better than DJ did. DJ was really a patient runner, getting to the edge, looking for his blocking, and then trying to find the gap. And I think Dylan and Joe will kind of be that way, but when they go upfield, it's going to be dramatic. So I think it just changes. But also, I think if the receivers are better, you'll have less need to run the ball. You might use the receivers on the edge to be what I like to call elongated handoffs that are actually passes out into the flat, but they pretty much look like a running play. Maybe you do that more to supplement your offense. But diminish, I don't like that word. I think the running game is going to be fine, just different.
So K-State ran the ball 461 times last year. They threw the ball 222 times. I don't think you're going to see that distribution, to be completely honest with you guys. I would be surprised if K-State doesn't throw the ball closer to 300 times and run it closer to 400 times. That to me seems like kind of where this thing is trending, because again, you were able to just give DJ the ball last year and say, this is your game, go get it done. Yes, Dylan Edwards finished the season with 74 carries and was really, really dang effective, running for almost 600 yards at 546. But he only ran the ball 74 times compared to DJ's 205. And so obviously Dylan is going to get more carries. Joe Jackson's going to get more carries. I think he only ended with just less than 40. Yeah, he ended with 39 carries. So I think it becomes more about what do you decide to do when you have the ball. I think they're also going to run more plays this year, guys. So that is going to factor into it. But I would anticipate that Avery Johnson throws the ball a little bit more, and you might even see Avery with a little bit more rushing yards, because I think the scramble yards are going to be there. Maybe not necessarily design runs, but I think we'll see more called passes with some more scramble runs than we saw last year.
I don't get too much into the balance of run pass. I really don't. I know Bill Snyder used to always say you want to be 50-50, at least in yardage. Look, let's be honest. I mean, that's a really deceiving stat. K-State throws the ball fairly well in the first half. Well, very well, to great effect, and you're up 35-0 at half. You're probably going to throw the ball like 3 times, 5 times in the second half if you're sustaining the lead. And the opposite's true. You go into halftime down by 3 touchdowns, you're going to come out throwing it all over the field. The first scenario, you ran it a lot and you win. And the second scenario, you threw it a lot and lose, but the circumstances were totally different. So I think K-State will throw the ball with better effect, whether that is in amount or just yardage and where they're throwing the ball. Maybe they're going to get more downfield. So, and on top of that, I think 1, Avery is going to be more accurate. And 2, he had an enormous number of drops last year.
Mm-hmm.
Receivers weren't catching the ball. And look, that didn't even get into the stat of he threw it in the right place and the receiver wasn't there. That looks like he had a bad throw. He was throwing the ball in the right place a number of times and the receiver didn't go to the place. So it's, again, I think his numbers are going to go up because the receivers, including tight ends, are going to really open things up. And I think the nature of the running game being to the edge a little bit is going to make the defense spread out a little bit. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Big part of this is the coordinators too, guys. If you're Connor Riley, I know he caught some heat last year and he's not totally off the hook, but if you've got a guy by the name of DJ Giddens, you give him the ball and you let him go up the middle. If he can get 7 yards, by all means, that's an easy job. Matt Wells obviously is more of a former quarterback. He's got more of the passing side to him. So that might change in that regard. But bottom line, guys, I don't care if K-State has 26 rushing yards per game. As long as you score the points and you get those yards, you get downfield, I don't think it matters one bit because Dylan Edwards, like we said, it might come up as a passing yard or a rushing yard, but if he's the focal point, fine. It doesn't matter how you're getting there. So I understand the question, the statistically, the rushing numbers are going to take a step back. They are. Because DJ Giddens was that special and the offense just kind of revolved around that. Now that you've got a new mind calling plays, you've got more weapons surrounding the quarterback who aren't just bell cow running backs who are going to go up the middle every time. You're going to see a regression in those stats. But as long as you get down the field and score, it doesn't matter how you do it. Like you mentioned, Bill Snyder fits with 50-50. I don't care if it's 100-0, man. If you go score points, nobody's going to bat an eye.
And I'll be Big B here. The offensive line does play a factor into this, guys. Mm-hmm. Like, let's not forget about those guys up front. So if they're as good, if not better than they were last year, if they're better than they were last year, there won't be a regression in the running game. There just won't be. If they're worse than they were last year, there will be a regression. So I think a lot of it depends on the guys up front.
Good answer, Big B.
Thank you.
That was a horrible impression, Gilbert. He sucks at him.
I know you've really got to work on that, man.
I know.
But same thing goes
like him.
Same thing goes for Avery too. Like your offensive line is going to love you. He's got a year under his belt as a quarterback. He's not going to be dancing and flustering around. If you can stand tall in the pocket and your offensive linemen know like how much time you've got and where he's going to be, makes their job even easier. So having an experienced quarterback in the system is another plus.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Here we go. Last question of the podcast from Yeehaw Emaw. Is there a reason K-State doesn't perform coming off bye weeks? Having 3 byes this year makes me nervous. Dang it, I hadn't thought of that.
I picked the question. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I did a little research here, guys. You'll be proud of me. So K-State's 48-28 over Chris Kleiman.
What's research?
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Okay.
You would have no idea what that is. But they're 7-8 following the bye weeks in his 6 years at Kansas State. So that's obviously a lot worse than his overall record, but 15 games is a relatively small sample size. I know that that's not like 4 games, but still, Chris Kleiman's proven he's a good coach. And so, it's a small number, right? Only 15 games. You're averaging 2 a season essentially there, maybe a little more than that. But a couple of them have nothing to do with a bye, in my opinion. 2022 at TCU. TCU was ranked number 8 at the time. You lose that one. 2024, last year to Arizona State. Wins the Big 12. Oklahoma State in 2023. Plays in Arlington for the Big 12 title. So those are good teams. And on the flip side of this narrative, K-State went out to Boulder last year and beat, it, without a doubt, its best win of the season, beat Colorado after a bye. Oklahoma in 2020. I know that has probably an asterisk by it because of the COVID season, but that was after a bye as well when Adrian Martinez went out and balled. That wasn't 2020. I'm sorry. K-State won the game. Brain fart, Fitz. You proud of me for that one?
Yeah.
But bottom line is,
Thompson.
That was Skylar. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Skylar, we love you if you're listening. Adrian, you did a good job the next year as well. Or was that 2 years later? Oh, my goodness. Would have been 2 years later.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a small sample size, and they've won good games after buys, and they've also lost to good teams after buys as well. So I think like last year after Houston, everybody expected there to be a jump because it was an ugly loss and you've got time to regroup and refocus. But people forget that Arizona State was a pretty freaking good team last year. At the time, you didn't necessarily think it, but at the end of the day, that was the best team in the league and gave Texas a run for its money in the playoff.
And Fitz, I'm going to maybe have a hot take here, and maybe this is totally off base, but
this is your Skip Bayless impersonation.
No, it's not my Skip Bayless. This is my opinion on the whole. I think it's total BS, if you want my honest opinion. Like, I don't understand why people have, coach, he's not very good at off the bye. That's a problem. Okay, sure. Maybe there's something to do with that. But Chris Clement has even talked about, he's done this. He believes that this works, and he believes that it helps this program. So, yeah, they've lost 8 games off of a bye, you said. They've won 7 of them. And I know those aren't exactly very good numbers. That's not something you want. But this isn't like it's a chronic issue where they are, they're 2 and 13 off of a bye week, where you can say, okay, they're losing because of the bye. Each college football game is its own little mini season. And so there are plays that happen within a game that cause the results. You either win or you lose because of a handful of plays. Well, we'd have to go back and watch that game, but I would find it very hard to imagine that they lost that game because they weren't prepared or they did something wrong in the 2 weeks leading up to it. They just lost the game. Like, it just happened. And so I don't really think that there's a correlation there, but I will say this year, you look at who they play coming off of the bye, because I think that's important. You get UCF at home. If you lose that game against UCF at home, we've got issues. We can talk about problems coming off of the bye. I'll be fine with that. Your next game is at Kansas. You should have no problem getting up for that game. That there is no excuse. Oh, well, there's a bye week. No excuse for that. And then the very last one at the end of the season is at Oklahoma State, where we don't know how good they're going to be. They could be in the running for the Big 12 championship. They could be, at the bottom of the heap. That's just kind of a TBD situation. But there should not be any excuses this year coming off of a bye week is really what I'm getting.
And KU, real quick, KU's coming off a bye week, and I believe Oklahoma State is as well.
Right.
So, like, essentially at that point, it's just a wash for 2 of those 3 bye games. It's maybe the other, I forget, but there's 2 this year where the other team's also coming off the bye.
Interesting.
Okay, so Cole, you just outlined these, but I want to go through them again. You go to Arizona, you actually get an extra day in a bye week because that game's on Friday, and then after that bye week, you've got UCF in Manhattan. Look, if they lose that, I'm going to buy into there's a problem. I'll be honest. After that, then game 7, you play TCU, and game 8, after a bye week, you go to Kansas. You're getting into the second half of the season when you're kind of beaten up. I like where that game off is right after, 7 games in. It's beautiful. And what's interesting, you play 2 games. You go to KU, and then Tech comes in, and then you get your 3rd bye week after 9 games. I love where the bye weeks are stationed, where they're positioned this year. They're not too early. They're not too late. Right when your team needs probably some rest, healing up, heading into the final 3 games. But you also don't want a bye week, I don't think, in those last 3 games. You want to keep your rhythm through that, particularly if you're going to go to the championship game. So, yeah, I embrace the thought that they've had problems after bye weeks, and I'm sure Chris Kleiman's looked into it. He's thought about it. He's going to tell us in the press conference, we don't do anything different, but I'm sure he's evaluated that. But I'm not going to buy into there's trouble unless they go 1-2 out of those 3. I think they're going to go 3-0 with those 3 bye weeks. But I also think Kansas is a bigger problem than people want to admit. I mean, I just do. And that relates to my daily delivery today. But if you haven't watched it, I won't spoil it. But yeah, I think Kansas is going to be a bigger problem for teams than we expect. I don't think they'll contend for the Big 12 title, but I think they'll burst a lot of bubbles along the way. They'll burst some bubbles, have some big games. Honestly, because I'm a fan of Jalen Daniels. If he cuts down those fumbles and starts making big plays like we've seen him do, if he gets that back in balance, they're dangerous. They just are.
Fitz,
so, yeah.
I have a daily delivery idea before we wrap the show up.
Okay.
On the subject of this schedule, it just dawned on me, but if you look at the schedule and you look at the bye weeks, K-State has a home game outside of Arizona. They'll come home on September 13th. Then they are home for 14 days. They're home for 14 days. They get to stay in Manhattan for 14 days during that bye week before they have a home game. Well, you go to the next game with a bye week. They're at home against TCU, so they'll be at home for prep for TCU. Then they play the home game. They get to stay at home for the 2 weeks of the bye week. Well, you come back. The next bye week, they have a home game on November 1st against Texas Tech. So, again, after KU, they'll have that whole week at home. They'll play the game. Then they'll get 2 weeks before they go out and they finish the season. So, yes, it's a bye week, but because they have a home game there, they literally have consecutive nights in Manhattan for, I don't want to do the math on that, but a really long time. The bottom line is this team is going to be spending a lot of time in Manhattan this year.
Once you get through Ireland, like Fitz, we've talked about this, it is smooth sailing. And that week with Oklahoma State and Utah is going to be rough back-to-back. Like, that's not going to be a fun back-to-back road trip. But from that point to once you land in Manhattan from Dublin, it's a pretty damn easy season. So, and I'll put a bow on it with this, guys. Like Chris Kleiman's, Fitz, you've mentioned his late game. Like he's never been in close games before in his career. Like, that's probably near the top of his list. And there's maybe, I don't want to call them faults, but Achilles heels, but maybe issues he has as a head coach that he could get better at. But for his entire staff, their scouting on the extra bye week is fine. Maybe it could be a little bit better, but it's nowhere near the top. Because that's essentially what utilizing that bye week is extra scouting on your opponent. Cole, right? Like you're the coach here.
Yep.
But to my knowledge, that's what it is, right? So maybe they could be a little bit better in that regard, but there's much more things that they could be improving on as a staff.
I agree. I mean, they got to figure this out. And even if you don't think it's your whatever you're doing in practice, you need to change it up. Whatever. There's been some problems, but I do agree with Gilbert. I don't want an overreaction here because you've just happened to play a lot of really good teams coming off bye weeks. So that has a huge impact. Coming off a bye week to play UCF, unless Scott Frost waves a wand and makes him magical again immediately, I think, if you lose that, you got problems. If you roll through that, I think this team's, pretty determined to get where they need to be. Is that it? Is everyone done?
That's everyone got.
Okay. We appreciate everyone watching. Make sure you contact mhkremodeler.com. That's Helping Hands Remodeling. Gabriel, the sponsor of the Powercat Podcast, and we appreciate you watching or listening.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.